Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
What up, guys? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. And so on today's show, we're going to be covering the main topic, which is how to get women obsessed over you. I'm going to go over 10 different ways that you can do this, because when you're in the dating phase of things, you're going to want to try to build an emotional connection, and you're going to want to make sure that you're being able to gauge and monitor her feelings to you in a way where you can see that they're growing. And there's ways that you can actually make that growth happen a lot faster, to the point where the woman is darn near chasing you down. And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But a lot of guys mess that up. A lot of guys in the beginning, you guys are coming at these women too fast. You're trying to throw everything you got at her. You're trying to show all this interest into all these things, and it's chasing them away. And I want you to be a guy that is able to date the women that you want to date. And part of that means knowing the things to do that are going to get them to have a heightened attraction to you in a way, by the way, that is non-sleazy, and that's going to allow you to still be your authentic, natural self. But it's in a way that's going to demonstrate to her that you have value in her eyes, to where, yeah, she needs to be coming towards you and have a lot of feelings for you. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to be answering your guys' questions, and I'm going to be going over a few comments that I got during the course of the week. So this show is ultimately all about you guys. So if you have any questions during the course of the show, then you can ask them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them live for you right now on this show. All right. So we're going to get into that. But real quick, I wanted to briefly talk to you guys about a new masterclass that I now have available at my website. So if you go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, on the front page, you'll see a thing that says, hey, click on this thing for this masterclass. And this is the masterclass. I'm going to show it to you guys real quick here. This is what it looks like. All right. So it's called Irresistible Introvert, 3 Keys to Unleashing Your Magnetic Charm on Women. And so this is a masterclass that I put together that's basically for the introverts that really don't understand how to be able to really attract women, or they get anxious or nervous. Then this is a webinar that is going to help with that. And I will just show you briefly what I'm talking about here. So you scroll down a bit. So this is what you'll learn in the webinar. You're going to learn how to basically display your introverted traits that women find irresistible. We're going to learn about the 3 deadly mistakes that almost all introverts, including me back in the day, the mistakes that introverts make when dating that causes them to sabotage themselves. You'll learn the correct approach on how to overcome anxiety and nervousness, so you will not feel apprehensive when trying to go up to women and talk to them. You're going to learn the best environments for introverts to approach women. And these are environments that are tried, true, and tested by me, that when you are in these environments, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to connect with women in a way that's not you having to do all these cold approaches, or not being able to introduce yourself in a way that won't scare her off. So you'll get to learn that. You'll learn the secret strategies for starting conversations without cold approaching. I'm not a fan of like going up to random women in public and being like, hey, I'm Harry, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of introverts get apprehensive about that as well. And I got news for you. There are other ways to be able to approach women without doing it that way. And you'll learn that in the webinar as well. And then, of course, you'll learn about some other advanced techniques for building long-lasting connections. So this is a free masterclass that I put together. Again, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. It's on the front page. You can sign up for it now and watch it whenever. All right. So I just wanted to highlight that for you guys today. All right. So let me get this off the screen here. All right. So before we get into the crux of the show, I'm first going to answer a few comments and scenarios that I got during the course of this week that I found to be quite actually entertaining and interesting. So let's see this first question here. Okay. So there was a guy that hit me up, and he had a situation going on with a woman. He had gone on a couple of dates with her, and things started to kind of fizzle out. And she was kind of acting weird because she was trying to suggest a date, but then wanted him to plan the date. And so he wrote me and asked me about the situation. I asked a few more deep diving questions because I always tell you guys to give me as much information as possible before I diagnose these things. All right. And so we're going to go into his question and the back and forth I had with him so I can finally answer his situation and you can see what he was going through. So here's his question. He says, I have a question. I took the lead and scheduled the first 2 dates, including time, place, and day, and paid for them. Then the woman asked me to accompany her to choose either a jazz night or a comedy night for the 3rd date. So she's asking him to plan this out, these activities. He said, isn't she then supposed to be in charge of planning the whole date from start to finish? Because after I told her I'd go to jazz night, so then she asked me to take the lead and schedule it. And when I replied to her via text about it, she didn't want to go out. And she told me that I hope I find my match. I was like, what the freak, LOL. So yeah, traditionally, who's ever planning the date should be the one that is actually planning the date and is potentially paying for the date. So for her to come to you and say, hey, so for our next date, I think we should do a jazz or comedy night. And then you're like, that's a great idea. And then her response is, great, now plan it out. It might be one of those cases where she doesn't have proper home training, like that she's trying to get out there. These are activities that I like, but rather than mention them on a date, like, hey, so, you know, when you ask her what kind of activities are you into, she could then say, oh, I like jazz. I like comedy nights. I really like comedy clubs. But instead she's just saying directly, hey, no, I like this thing, do this thing, plan this thing. And that's an example, by the way, of a woman that is showing off her masculine energy because she's trying to dictate these dates. And it's not the worst thing in the world to suggest a thing for a date, but she's doing it in a way that's not very feminine leaning. And so it can be very off-putting, as this guy so shows. So I asked him, I said, so what was the exact wording of your response to her when she asked you to take the lead and schedule it? And he said, I replied, okay, at first, and then did what she said to do to make reservations. But then a few days went by and it was bothering me. So I messaged her back and told her that it bothered me. And I was curious as to why, if she took the lead, like to come up with the idea, the activity, then why is he the one making the reservations? Also, I forgot to tell you that she told me a specific time and day to schedule and then said in the message that it's for this day, right? LOL, I was like, you already told me the time and day. Why are you reconfirming it? So this is starting to sound like a woman that is A, very structured, and B, is very controlling because, you know, he's messaging back, by the way, that he's wondering why she didn't take the lead, why he's making the reservations. And again, she's going about this in a way that's not very ladylike. And it's showing a woman that it's like, I'm going to try to get my way and I'm going to control him and try to get him to pay for all these things. Even though, again, if she's suggesting the date idea, then she should be the one that is planning it out and paying for it. And that's across the board. Most women understand this principle. Like most women, if they're saying, hey, I know it's like an odd day of the week, but I was thinking we can go to dinner, and usually that's followed up with, and I found a great place, and hey, you know what? It's on me. Because when women start suggesting dates, that means that they're comfortable enough with you to where they're wanting to show that they are also investing in this dating process. And as part of that, they're going to suggest either at the very least going halvesies on it, or suggesting that she'll pay for the whole thing. Hey, my treat, because you were so great on those first couple of dates. If she's suggesting dates and then wanting you to pay and wanting you to plan it, and I've had those kind of women where I took them on a great first date, and then the next date, they're like, hey, we should go out to breakfast. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And then they're like, okay, you plan it. Okay, and by the way, when we get there, I'm going to get the most expensive thing on the menu, and I'm making you pay for it. And there are women out there like that they don't have proper training, and they're selfish, and they're thinking about themselves, and they're trying to see how much they can get out of this dating experience with you, regardless of if they actually want to be with you or not. And that's what sounds like is happening here. All right. But also, that said, this guy is also failing her test because she's basically putting out these things, and then he's like going along with it, like, oh, I need you to plan it. Okay, I'll plan the date. Like, I would have been like, you asked me out. So unless you're planning the date, I'm staying home. And because I'm indifferent to outcomes, like I don't care if this works out or not. I care about if I'm being treated fairly and equally. And if a woman's trying to come to me and say, hey, I want you to plan this date, it's got to be either here or here, and it's got to be this time and day. And by the way, you're paying for it. All that's energy that I don't want in my life. And so I'm very quick to say, that's not going to work for me. If we can do one of those dates, that's fine, but we'll plan it on the time when I feel that we're ready for that. And also when you're not coming at me with this weird energy that you're coming at with me now, you know? So he said that. And then I said, interesting, just curious, what were the first 2 date activities? Okay. So he says this, we met on Hinge. So the first was a meetup for a coffee shop at a bookstore. I even told her jokingly that if it doesn't work out or I'm stood up, I'll have plenty of books to read. Okay. So I'll say this. This is an example of it's a joke. He's saying it's not meant to be taken seriously, but I believe that jokes sometimes subconsciously are putting out what we really feel about ourselves. So when he said the thing of like, well, if it doesn't work out or if you stand me up, I'll have books to read. What he's saying to her subconsciously is, I don't think that I'm actually good enough for you to want to keep this date. So I'm gonna make this little side comment. It's going to be jokey, but I'm saying that in hopes that it'll make you show up because I don't think you're going to actually want to show up. And this is the first case of you showing a lack of confidence in your ability to keep this woman. So I don't make jokes like this. I don't make jokes like, well, if you don't show up or God, I hope you don't cancel me, because all that's putting out there is energy that you expect her to do that. We want you to show that you have an expectation that you're so darn good, she's not going to be able to help herself, but to want to show up on the date. So take those kind of things out of your vocabulary, take it out of your joke set, because those things are really just demonstrating to women that you don't have a high confidence in yourself. And if you don't have high confidence in yourself, how is she going to have confidence in you? Just saying. Anyway, so then he said the first real date was miniature golf and a diner. Now, that's not bad, right? But he says this. He says, I wanted to take her on a first date to 2 of my choices, either the escape room or the art museum and then a restaurant. But she told me that the museum was under renovation, okay? And the escape room, quote, it was too much money on the weekends, even though I insisted it was my money and I didn't need to worry about money and we should save that for a later date. But she insisted and almost got angry at me. So on one hand, we could say, hey, kudos to her for not trying to make a guy spend a whole lot of money on her, but also very early on, before the first dates even happen, she's already trying to do what? Trying to control the narrative of how the date's going to go. She's trying to be the one that steps forward and basically wears the pants in the relationship. And a lot of women that grew up in households where there wasn't a guy around, they'll do this to test you. They'll say, well, let's do these things my way. Let's do my suggestion. And most guys, us not trying to start fights and trying to just go with the flow, we're like, I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, if she doesn't like the activity I suggested, that's fine. We'll just do something else. And we think it as no big deal. But dude, I'm telling you, it is a very big deal when a woman suggests a date alternative and you agree with it, because now it's giving her the precedent that you're not going to be the leader in this relationship. And most women, regardless of how they grew up, want the guy to lead. So in effect, this is her testing to see if she's going to be able to walk all over you and get her way. And when you go along with what she wants, you fail the test. I don't care if, like, on the first date you said, hey, let's go to like PF Chang's. And she's like, oh, well, I know this restaurant that's got all stuff, and these bells and whistles, and it's better this and that. You better be like, hey, you know what? That sounds like great. I'd love to do that for like a future date, but I've already got reservations at this place. I really want to get this thing on the menu. And so the first date is your territory. You plan it. And on that first date, you taking suggestions from her, I say I'm against that. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world if it happens. But again, each one of these things that's happening is going to start showing her examples of whether or not she's able to walk all over you and what she's going to be able to get away with. And if you have a backbone. So at the point that she said to his escape room idea, well, that's too much money, I don't want to do it. His response should have been, well, no, it's no big deal. I got money for it, and I just want to take you to have a good time. Or what he could have also done is said, hey, you know what? Our first date, let's meet at this address, and not tell her what the activity was. She could look it up for herself. Or if it went allowed, he could have picked her up and said, hey, I'm going to take you to this escape room thing, and it not be a conversation. But the fact that she's trying to change this up front, this is already a bad sign of a woman that is controlling and is very structured and is not willing to bend to a man's leadership. And you don't, I'm telling you, women that won't adhere to your leadership are going to be the hardest kind of women to deal with. Now, you could say, but Harry, it's 2023, women's live, women can choose this and that. I'm telling you that when it comes down to it, because you got to think about, if danger arises and a bad guy comes to attack you guys, you're not going to look at her and say, oh, babe, what should we do? She's not going to want to do a 50-50 decision on that. She's going to want you to jump in, take the lead, and fight off the attacker. So you need to have women that are going to adhere to understanding that when you're making a plan, that she can trust that that's the plan to go along with. You can take suggestions, and even that comes later on once you're in a relationship. But in the dating phase, when you're planning dates out, there should be no pushback. Women are supposed to be there just to have fun and to be taken on an adventure with you and to see what you're about. If you have a woman that's this structured, that's trying to change things up, you're going to be in for a lot of fights. Trust me, been there, done that, wrote a book on it. I did. You go to the website. Anyway, so he says, so I changed the venue to what she wanted. The second date was Princeton Art Museum and dinner. Both dates went very well. We kissed on all occasions. Again, we meet at all of the places. Even after setting up the museum date, I told her that I wouldn't mind picking her up. And if it's a beautiful day, I'll take my sports car. Love it. He's saying, hey, you know what? If it's a nice day outside, I'll pick you up, drop the top, and we'll cruise around and have a good time, ride in luxury. What's her response? What is her response? She got angry and said, quote, I don't think you understand the weight. I don't feel comfortable driving in other people's cars, especially those of men. What is it showing you? So now she's structured. She's very much in her masculine energy, but she also has baggage. The fact that she said, I'm not willing to get into a car with a man. Now keep in mind, in a car, you're in a public place. The top's going to be down. People can see you. He's suggesting going to another public place, a museum. So like none of this is something where it's like, I'm going to put you in the trunk of my car and then drive you over a cliff somewhere. This is all, you're going to be seen in public in a car, but I'm going to save you the trouble. Now, on first dates, I totally get it. Most women are going to be like, I don't really know you enough yet, so let's meet in someplace public. But that second or third date, after she's had an hour or 2 hour conversation with you, most women are like, I trust this guy enough for a second date. I think he can pick me up. Some might be apprehensive about, I don't want you to know where I live. And even then they might be like, hey, let's meet at this parking lot, and then you can pick me up from there, and then we'll ride along together. So this woman is extremely structured, has a lot of baggage going on. None of this reads as a woman that deserves your attention or your time. Now, you can feel sorry for her and say she's been through trauma. Women that have been through trauma deserve love too. They deserve love too after they've gone through therapy and other things to be able to fix what is holding them back from being able to be a nice, agreeable person. We want you to date nice, agreeable women who will go along with your plan and not fight you over. Think about this. She's fighting him over the good time that he wants to show her. Is that a woman that's going to be a good time long-term? The answer is no. So I wouldn't even deal with a woman like this because this is going to be stressful and annoying to you as you try to date her. Anyway, so he said, again, I told her I understood. So he's crowning down to her again. And she said she wasn't upset, but she probably really was, and said she'll see me at the museum. Then after that date, she voice messaged me the next day saying she had a wonderful time and would like to have me accompany her on the next date. So all this ultimately reads as a woman that unfortunately does not make a good long-term dating candidate. I can see why she's still single and why she's on a dating app. And not all women on dating apps are bad. I've met some great women on dating apps before. I've had friends that have gotten on there and gotten married. But you got to understand that if up to this point she's a really hot, attractive woman and she's single, you got to look beyond the surface and look like, okay, what's wrong with this scenario? And this is why I tell you guys, women typically take 2 to 3 months to solidify their feelings. You need to also be taking that time to do your due diligence and figure out maybe why she's single or what she's really about in terms of her attitude, her treatment towards you, towards waiters, towards other people, how she views men in general. Because this woman, I tell you right now, she does not have a good viewpoint of men at all. She's fighting 2 things. She's trying to go out because she knows she wants to get with a guy, but she's not trusting of his leadership. She's not trusting of being with him solo. She's not trusting of a lot of things. And so that makes a woman very, very hard to date. And you can feel sorry for her all day. You do not stay in those scenarios because while that woman's trying to fight you, there are 5 other women out there that you could date that would just be like, pick me up in your sports car. Oh my God, that's amazing. You want to go where for a date? Escape room. I'd love to do that. And that'll be the response versus, that's too much money. Oh my God, you want to pick me up and do what? Like, why is she fighting him? Like, why? You know? So just wanted to point that out to that guy. Hopefully the guy watching this helps you out. So now we'll answer another comment before we get into the main crux of the show. We got a couple other comments on here. So this guy wrote me a comment under my Give Her Space to Choose You video. And he said, bro, in my situation, she was calling and texting me every day, every morning when I got off and every night before I went to work. And then on weekends, we were together the entire weekend. So you tell me, is that needy? And I mentioned in that video that you need to give her space to choose you because you being there all the time can appear very, very needy to women, which is not attractive and can ultimately cause them to start to lose interest, right? So he said, is that needy? In my opinion, if I play these games, I'm not being honest about how I feel. So why am I needy when I'm doing the same thing that she started out doing to me and then stopped? Now I'm needy, and needy to me is not a bad thing. If I'm not needy, I don't think you should look at this as me being into you. So there's a lot to unpack here, right? So to start off with, this is a lesson that you as a guy need to understand, is that in the dating realm, there are some things that men can get away with that women can't, and there are some things that women can get away with that men can't, at least in the sense that they'll be judged more harshly than the other sex. So for example, in the dating realm, is it completely fair that men can hook up with a bunch of women and not be too heavily judged, but they are? It's not balanced. It's not, and there's reasons behind why that judgment's made. But the point is that that's a win on our end. We can sleep with a bunch of people, and most women will be like, if anything, that means he knows how to handle women. So yay for him. Not the same for us, right? So here's the thing. Women can totally get away with showing signs of what we on their end would be from us needy behavior. They can text us all the time. They can call us all the time. They can want to see us all the time. They can express feelings to us. They can get away with that. Why? Because on our end of things, we're judging them based on how feminine they are. And part of femininity is kind of like being a little anxious at times, or being able to say all the feels about things, and being cutesy and all those other great things, And it's a feminine energy. Men, you cannot get away with doing things that exude a feminine energy to them, right? So for example, he said she was calling and texting every day, right? That's an example of a woman calling you and texting because she's missing you. She wants to know about you. She wants to see if you have feelings for her about that. That's all great, right? But when you do it as a guy, now picture you as the guy. Hey, baby, I'm just texting because I want to see if you miss me. Hey, how's your morning? Hey, what's going on? Good morning, baby. I love you so much. That's all a feminine energy. And those are exercises that we as men are going to have a harder time getting away with. You might find like the 1% woman that's totally cool with that. But if you're trying to, as a general principle, go after a bunch of women that understand these activities are not going to be attractive for you as a guy doing them to a whole bunch of women. It's just not going to be. And so again, we could say, is that fair? Should you be able to reflect back the exact exercises and activities that she's doing to show you care? That should be a thing, but it is not. This is why I tell you guys, for example, women can get away with verbalizing their feelings for you, but during the dating phase, you should be showing your feelings for her by way of actions. You're taking her out on dates. You're showing her a good time. You're, touching her and doing keynoting and stuff like that. That's how women starts to feel, oh, he's probably into me. But at the point that you start verbalizing, over texting, over calling, showing displays of neediness, these are behaviors that women do not find attractive, and you're going to be out. So you don't have to like it. And I get a whole bunch of guys that say this. They say, well, if I'm not being honest about how I feel, then I'm playing games. Dude, you're showing her how you feel by asking her on a date and showing her a good time and hooking up with her and kissing her and spending your time, effort, energy, and resources on her. All right. Those actions will give her the impression that you probably like her. And that's the example of how you can get away with showing your feelings as a guy. But you cannot get away with showing your feelings to a woman by verbalizing it without her thinking that it feels a little bit feminine, and now she's not as interested anymore. And if you don't believe me, look at your past women that you had crushes on. Most guys can probably pinpoint the point at which a woman starts to lose interest is the exact point at which they start to overly express and verbalize their feelings. So, is it bad if you're not talking about it? No, it's not. You are being honest with your feelings by wanting to spend time with her. But this idea that guys have of, I'm not being honest if I don't verbalize every single thought in my head about her or how I'm feeling or where I see us going, which we're going to talk about today in the crux of the show. Those are the things that are getting you shot in the foot, because you're holding on to this idea that you should be able to do these things. And that's the same as a woman saying, well, I should be able to tell a guy I have degrees from a school and that I have this boss babe job and he should be attracted to me. Why can't I do that? Well, all the boss babes in the world could come to you and say, I make $100,000 a year and I have a PhD. Is that going to attract you? Probably not. So if you heard a woman say, well, I should be able to this and that, you'd be like, but that doesn't attract me. Well, guess what? You verbalizing your feelings to women does not attract them. So you can be mad about it all you want to, but you're not going to get the results that you want if you keep doing the things that are not working. You being needy. Neediness to a woman is not only unattractive behavior, but it's unattractive for a variety of reasons. The biggest one of which is that for the purposes of her safety, you being needy is indicative of a guy that's going to eventually become overly obsessed with her to the point where on the off chance it doesn't work out, or on the off chance she doesn't like text you back right away or can't make a date one day, that you're going to go off on her in a very negative way that could result in her having harm brought towards her. So neediness, as much as you want to try to display it or think it's a good thing to women, it is a red flag and a serious sign of danger, danger, danger. This guy's unstable. Don't stay around him. So that's why in the beginning, or really ever, you should never be showing needy behavior. But part of being needy is because you're not confident in your ability to keep women, and you fear as though you're going to constantly lose them. So you're always living in this thing of like, I got to be around her all the time or I'm going to lose her. If I don't talk to her every day, I'm going to lose her. And that's what causes needy behavior. You have to become more indifferent and also more confident that the woman in front of you, you're going to show her the absolute best version of you that you can, and that's all you can do. And for some women, that's going to be enough to get you in the relationship. And for some women, the version of you that you're showing is not going to be for them. It's not going to gel, and that's okay. You only need one to work out. So if it doesn't work out with this one, there's another one down the road. And if you have problems with that, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, sign up for coaching, and I can start helping you build and get away from all this anxiety and stuff. And you can start learning the right pathway towards building your relationships up. So hopefully, guy, that helps you out. Let's see. And so now we're going to go into the main crux of the show. And today we're going to be talking about how to get a woman obsessed over you. And as I just talked about, as guys, if we show that we're starting to be needy towards a girl or that we're starting to obsess over them, then it's a red flag for them because it gives all kinds of signs of danger. He's not a safe person and yada, 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 And so, you know what? Let me back up. Before we get into the show, somebody left a comment. And so I'm going to answer these comments and then get to the show. Because ultimately, like I said, this show is about you guys. I want to make sure that I get your guys' comments in. So let's see. I had a guy here. He said, Coach, I was dating for about 7 months. A few weeks ago, she saw we were in the bar with another chick. And the girl I'm dating about So this guy says, the girl I was dating for about 7 months. A few weeks ago, she saw me in the bar with another chick who on the rating scale is a 7.5. And the girl that he's dating, and was a 4 to 4.5 in the rating scale, looked flustered and walked off. LOL, no contact for 3 weeks. What are your thoughts? Well, I don't know if you were seen in the bar, were you actually flirting with this other girl? Like, I don't know what you were doing with this woman in the bar. Did you ask her on a date? Had you just met her at the bar for the first time? Like, I don't know the full story of that. The fact that she went no contact for 3 weeks, that's not the best sign, but I don't know if you've also tried reaching out to her. But also real talk. If you're dating a 4 to a 4.5 or something that you view in that realm, there's probably a good chance at some point, if you're not cheating on her now, you're going to cheat on her eventually. And I'm not for you hurting another woman that you feel is less than in the looks department. So if you're already realistically feeling that she's not what you want fully in the attraction department, then you might want to consider that it's probably good she saw you, and it's best to end it now before you do something later that you're going to regret. I'm just saying, because I'm all for you guys being able to get the women that you find are the ones that you find to be highly attractive. This is not her. It is not fair to her for you to keep dating her. Like, real talk. We're not in the business of trying to hurt women. We're not in the business of, well, I'm going to just take this one for now and then hope that something better comes along. No. If she saw you with another girl, she misinterpreted, but your rating of her is a 4 to 4.5 or whatever, then I'd say it sucks that you don't like her like that, but also you deserve to get whoever you want. So that's what I'd say. Let's see. And then this guy said he was commenting on this other person that I talked about just now or earlier. He said, just because she preferred to meet him there versus him picking her up does not mean she has baggage. As women, we have to be extra cautious. In my opinion, you were overanalyzing it. I have to know someone well before I get in his car. Well, here's the thing, right? Is that it's not the worst thing in the world that she doesn't want to meet or get picked up by him. We're not arguing with that part. Like, it'd be nice, realistically, after the first date, when most women have spent enough time with the guy on that first date to where, at least I found in my personal life, generally by that second or third date, women are usually like either down to pick me up or for me to pick them up, because I've done enough due diligence on the first date and I've shown them a good time and made them laugh and helped them to see that I'm not a dangerous person to where that can happen. But that's not where the fight lies. Where the fight lies is how she responded, where she's like, I don't think you understand the weight. I don't feel comfortable driving other people's car, especially those of men's. The fact that she said specifically, I'm not comfortable in other people's cars, especially those of men's, indicates that she has extreme trauma or baggage towards men. Now, if she didn't want to get in the car with them, she could have just said, hey, you know what, that's great, but honestly, for the first few dates, I'm more comfortable meeting with you at the place if that's cool. That would have been a way where he would have gotten the point, because men, we don't need a lot of yelling at us or a lot of like harsh language to get us to change. Most men on those first few, or really in general, are like, I want to do everything I can to make sure this woman has a good time with me and a good perception of me. And so whatever's going to make her comfortable, I'm down to do. You saw the guy in the story. He was like, hey, like, you know, I'll change up my thing and do whatever. That's totally fine. But at the point where she went extra hard on it, that's when you start to see like the trauma. And guys, early on, you got to sniff out trauma, because again, we can feel bad for a situation, but what's going to happen is her trauma is going to show up in other ways in your relationship. And especially if she doesn't trust men, there's going to be a point where you're not going to answer for, like, say, you know, she texts you and you wait like 3 hours. She's going to be like, are you cheating on me? Or why didn't you answer back? And it's going to be fights, and you don't want fights. That's all I'm trying to press on you guys. So yeah, not bad that she didn't want to meet up, but her response and how she went about it, that's where I have an issue. So hopefully that gives better clarification to that. Okay, so now I'll get into the crux of the show, which is talking about how to get women hooked in the first few dates. So like I said, like, it's very bad for men to become obsessed with women. So, and one could argue that we don't want women overly obsessed with you to the point where they're like stalking you and like trying to, you know, stab you to death and stuff like that. But of the two of you, it's going to be better if the woman early on has more of an emotional investment in you than you have in her. And so to that end, there are ways that you can ethically, I want to stress this to women that are watching, ethically, there are ways you can ethically go about doing things in the dating process that are going to have women start to view you as the one they really, really want to be with, and start to think about you all the time, want to do things for you, at times overextend themselves, which will give you a really good indication that they want to get with you, all right? And so I'm going to go over these, and I also want to stress that I saw, in researching this show, I saw a lot of horrible advice on how to get women to really, really like you. Like stuff like, you need to like compliment her all the time, or you need to like like, there were just all these things of just like, it's the same tropes that people play out over and over again because they sound good. And so I stress this because there are things that in theory sound good about what should work to make a woman get hooked on you early on, that in practice don't actually work. Like you checking up on her every day with a good morning text, it sounds like that should be something that gets her obsessed, because like, oh, he's checking up on me, he really cares for me. In practice, I have found, and guys that I've coached have found, that doing that early on makes women think, why is he doing this? What's going on? Oh my God. So that's not a way to get a woman obsessed with you. And so you have to know that there's going to be good advice out there and bad advice. And some of the stuff you're going to hear today is probably stuff you have not heard before, because it doesn't necessarily lean towards what would consider sound, you know, basically like PC, you know, but it's stuff that I've tried and that I've researched and that has effectively worked. And so I'm going to talk about it. And so hopefully this will help you out in your dating journey, because we want you to get women that you want, and we want them to genuinely like you, right? So here's the first overall way, though, to get women hooked on you in those first few dates, okay? Is that you need to give women the complete opposite reaction that she is expecting you to have for most things, you know? Because here's the thing, a good majority of women going to the dating phase expecting to know how men are going to react when they do certain things. Perfect example, right? If you text her and she doesn't respond back in 3 hours, most women, if they wait a while and then respond back, they're expecting this guy's going to go off, or I'm going to get back to my phone and have like 10 other texts. Hey, where you at? What are you doing? What's going on? Why won't you respond to me? Oh my God, what's up? Do you still like me? What's going on? And so when you don't do that, you stand out because it's like, oh, it's just totally cool that I didn't respond back to him right away, you know? If she says something to you like on a first date, like, oh yeah, so, sometimes I like to have girls' nights out with my girlfriends and blah, 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 blah. She's probably had a bunch of guys at this point be like, oh, well, what are you doing these girls' nights out? And, are you going to clubs and seeing other guys, blah, 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 blah. And my response to you is like, oh, that's great. I have guys' nights out. Fantastic. Like, oh, that's the opposite reaction. And so there's going to be things along the way in the course of the dating phase where she's going to do stuff or say stuff, and she already has an idea that you're going to probably react to this in one way. And when you don't do that, it completely takes away her expectation because she's like, oh my God, this guy's different. I've said this thing, I've done this thing, I've done whatever, and I'm expecting to have these reactions and I'm not getting them. That's interesting, One of the things I used to do early on, very simple, for example, right? Like, I don't talk about sex stuff on dates. First date, second date, I'm not making any big innuendos. I'm not trying to suggest we go back to my place or her place. And I found that actually threw a lot of women off because most dudes on the first date are like, hey, so I want to take you back to my place and do this thing, blah, blah, blah. And it ends up not working in their favor. Whereas me, I'm not trying to, I'm showing them that I'm attracted to them, but I'm not pushing the hookup agenda. And I found that what resulted was that women would be the ones then trying to get me to come back to their place. Because on some level, like on that first date, if I'm not doing that, right? They're like, oh, great. There's finally a guy. He's not pushing the sex agenda. He's not trying to ogle me for my body, yada, yada, yada. And then the thought process starts in well, wait a minute. Why isn't he? But does he find me attractive? Why isn't he doing what all these other guys do? Why isn't he trying to touch me weird on the first date? Why isn't he trying to kiss me on the first date? Why isn't he trying to blah, blah, blah? Am I attractive? I don't know. And now they feel like they got to prove to themselves that I find them attractive, which makes it very easy on that second or third date to kiss them or get a hookup. But that's because, again, I'm giving her the opposite reaction and being the opposite of every single guy that she's ever dated. If you just listen to that advice alone, you will be eons above most men, and she will start to see you as different. And different to women is good. Different to women means I'm not going to get the same old boring Joe Schmo that I usually get. This guy could be more interesting. And that's going to start her wanting to get hooked on you. All right. So, and that'll follow on to the rest of this advice that I'm giving today. So that's the first thing. I got a comment in the comment box here from Jack DeRippa. He says, yeah, coach, before she saw me, though, she was acting real wishy-washy, and I was actually dating down because I liked her personality, but her true colors came out flaky and little contact. Yeah, like I said, if she's acting wishy-washy too, I'll say this, which goes into what I'm talking about here. When women start acting wishy-washy, because there's going to be a point in the dating phase where either she's getting genuinely wishy-washy or she's going to test out, what if I just, maybe don't text him back right away, or I say no to a couple of his dates, how is he going to respond? And what most guys do is they double up. If she doesn't text back right away, we want to double text. If she's saying no to dates, we want to ask what's wrong and try to plan even more dates. And I have found that if a woman's being wishy-washy, the best thing you can do is pull your attention away and then wait. Because most women, again, opposite reaction. Most women are used to, when they start pulling their attention, guys get obsessed, guys get needy, guys get desperate, guys send a lot of texts, and guys get really, really annoying, which is a way for her to gauge the guy she needs to get rid of. And when you don't do that, the thought's usually oh, crap. He's not texting me, call me, so maybe he's not as desperate as I thought he was, but does he still like me? I don't know what's going on. Oh, my God. Now, in this guy's case, he said the girl was a 4 or 4.5, so I wouldn't bank on, trying to get her back anytime soon. She might just feel like if you found somebody legitimately hotter, she could just be like, oh my God, he found somebody hotter. Why would he want to text me or call me ever again? You know what? I'm going to get out because I'm going to get hurt later on when he finds somebody finer. So again, kudos, I guess. But, anyway, so we went over the first way to get a woman hooked, which is give her the opposite reaction she's expecting. Second way to get a woman hooked on you on those first few dates, plan the dates. I've talked about this on the show before, guys. Most men out there are saying, let's go on a date. The woman's like, great. And then the first thing the guy says is, awesome. What do you want to do? You're already losing. You just saying, great. So I got an idea for a place for us to go to dinner. I just need to know, are you free at this time or this time on this day? That's it. You should already have a plethora of places in mind to take women on first dates. I talk about that extensively in my Introvert Dating Success Academy program, and also talk about that in the webinar that I talked about earlier. Go to the website, click on the webinar. But yeah, when you start planning dates, most women, at least early on, their 20s and stuff like that, most women have not been in the experience of dating a guy that actually plans dates. That is, to most women, I have found a new experience. Keep in mind, I'm 41. When I was in my 30s, I dated women that were also in their 30s and in their 40s that had never had a guy actually plan out the date. And so it made it very easy for me to now be the standout guy because I'm doing things that to most women is like, this should just be like dating 101. Of course, the guy should plan the date, but guys want to come up and be like, oh, well, it's women's lib and you should have a say in where we go. And I keep telling you guys, women want men to lead. They don't want to make decisions. So when you ask them on a date, they want you to plan the date. If you just become a guy that plans dates, you're going to stand out above most men and she's going to start to get hooked on you. The third way to get a woman hooked on you is to give her an emotional roller coaster. Now, I want to preface this by saying this does not mean that you're going to do things that are harmful to her in a way that's going to make her like feel crazy about herself, whatever. Because again, we're not in the habit of trying to manipulate women, at least not in a negative way. But what it does mean is this, is that most guys in an attempt to try to keep the peace of the woman in the dating process are very flat line. Everything's just okay, whatever you want to do, whatever's fine, blah, 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 blah. And so in the beginning, you might think that's a great way to be because it's going to cause no fights. And she's not going to have to wonder about where I stand with her because I'm always going to let her know how much I like her and this and that. But this is boring for women. This is you. This is you being the rock in the relationship. It's perfectly fine if she's predictable to you. But you being predictable to her at all times and keeping it emotional like this is going to be boring and it's going to be predictable and she's going to start to lose interest. So you want to give a woman an emotional roller coaster. You want her to go from like being able to predict what you're going to do to being unpredictable, from being confident that things are going the way that she wants in this dating relationship to being anxious about, are things not going that way? And I'll give you a few examples of what I call positive ways to give women an emotional roller coaster when dating. All right. So for example, 1, at the height of interactions, leave. When on that first date, right? You're talking, having a good time. She's laughing it up. She's having the best time ever. An hour into the date, it's time to end the date. Because now she's like, I'm having a great time. Wait, it's ending. What's going on? You are now causing a positive emotional roller coaster because it's leaving her wanting more of that good time. And it's like a roller coaster going up and it's like, oh, we stopped the ride for the day. Now she's got to wonder, when am I going to get to ride this ride again? That is positive emotional roller coaster for her. Another one, avoid initiating text between dates. A lot of you guys fight me on the whole, like in between dates, don't text her. And what I mean by that is don't initiate text. Like you take her on a date, show her a good time. You wait 4 days to initiate a text to ask her out again. But during that time, if she happens to text you, it's totally fine to respond back to her. But here's the point. The reason you do that is because she's going to go from having this great interaction with you and talking to you nonstop to now silence. And that silence means she has to now sit there and think about, A, the good time she had with you, up roller coaster. But did you have a good time? She's not sure. Down roller coaster. But you asked her out and showed her a good time. So you must have liked her on some level, a little bit up, but she doesn't know where your level of feelings is at, a little bit down. And now she's got to talk to her girlfriends about what a positive day she had, up. And now her girlfriends and her got to figure out, well, what does this mean? He hasn't texted you. What's going on? Down. And all that is a positive roller coaster that's making you stay on her mind and making her think about you for a longer period of time. So you want to do that. That's why I tell you guys, don't be a texty chatty. If you met her on a dating app or whatever, fine. You got to text her a bit to get her on the date. At the point that you start taking her out on actual dates, the texting between dates should be minimal because you want to, save all your conversation for the actual dates, but also you want her to go through that ebb and flow of, does he like me? Does he not? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, because that only helps to build. You being constantly in front of her face via text that whole time keeps like this. Yeah, I know he likes me. Yeah, well, okay, whatever. Oh, my interest is falling. Oh, my God. So let's see. Another way to give her an emotional roller coaster. Oh, okay. Reject her first attempt at getting you to do the hookup. Now, most women aren't going to just come out and say, hey, let's go to my place and hook up. I want to bang your brains out. But what will happen is this, and I've had this happen. Say like that second date, right? Second date, you have a great time, sure, another great time. You let's say you got to pick her up, right? So you drive her back to her place and you drop her off at her front door. She's like, well, I had a good time tonight. You're like, oh, I had a good time too. Maybe you give her a kiss and it's fantastic, right? This is the point where most guys would be like, I'm going to try to force my way in. I'm going to try to say, hey, can I come in your place real quick? And you be the guy instead that says, wait, well, have a good night and walk off. Now, some women are already like, I don't want to sleep with the guy until the third date anyway. But even those women will be like, but wait, it's the second date. He didn't even try. Like, Now they're really confused. Like, so we had a great date. He kissed me. So again, he must like me, but he didn't try to do physical anything beyond a kiss. Does he find my body not attractive? I gotta have to talk to my girlfriends again. And so again, you're giving a positive roller coaster. You're taking her on a date. You're showing a good time. So she knows consciously that you gotta like her, but you're at the point where she's attempting to try. Some women will be like, hey, want to come up to my place for coffee? Or hey, want to drop me off my place real quick and come in and see this thing? Because that's their way of trying to get the hookup to happen. And when you say, and when you act aloof and be like, oh, maybe some other time, but I got to go. But it was nice. I had a great time on this date, and we'll talk soon. Man, let me tell you, that is an easy way to give her a roller coaster that she's not going to know what's going on with her. But all it's going to do, it's going to make her think about you. And it's going to make her think that, man, he's different because he didn't try to force a hookup on me. And when I tried to do a passive offer, he rejected it. Oh, my God, I'm getting hooked. Another way to give her an emotional roller coaster, from time to time, you got to say no to her. There might be a time where like she says, hey, I was thinking I could come over right now. We could go out to something to eat. It's like last minute, right? And most guys, anytime a woman asks them out, is going to take the bait. Yes, sure, absolutely. Ever so often, especially during the dating phase, you need to reject her offer. You need to say, I can't make it tonight. Maybe some other time, but like tonight's no good. Without explanation. If you say to a woman from time to time, I can't do a thing, I don't want to do that, no, and don't explain why, that'll be a roller coaster. Why is he saying no? Does he not want to see me anymore? Is he going out with some other girl? I don't know, but it's caused me to have an emotional roller coaster, which is going to make her, again, get more hooked on you. Another way, stand up for yourself. Most guys, a woman will test out early on if what your stamina is for being able to actually stand up for yourself. Should she act crazy on you or say something out of pocket or, touch something of yours in your house that you don't want her to touch or whatever. Like women will test that out in part because they need to see what the danger level is. Like if they do something borderline crazy, like not over the top, but borderline crazy, what's your reaction going to be? Are you going to just go along with it and let her walk all over you? Or are you going to say, hey, don't do that. Hey, put that back over there. Hey, that's not cool. Stop that. Don't do that anymore. Women, that exudes masculine strength and they want to feel that from you, but also it shows them that, oh my God, he stood up for himself. He's not going to let me walk all over him. Oh my God, most guys are going to let me walk all over them and get my way. And this guy is already showing that he can be a good disciplinarian because he's showing me what his boundaries are. And that's how you start to get them hooked. Another thing, don't always be readily available. When she texts you, sometimes wait 2 or 3 hours. Now, some guys will say, but Harry, that's manipulation. If I'm right next to my phone, I should be able to text her and blah, 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 blah. Look, you can do what you want to do. One, you should be a guy that's legitimately busy to where you can't always get back to your phone. But also, again, recognize that you need to let her know early on that you're not going to always be available. There will legitimately be, at some point in your relationship, a time where you can't get to your phone right away. You can't make a date. You can't rush to her beck and call. But she'll get used to that if you're doing it early on in the dating process. Whereas if you don't do it for the first year, and then you start trying to do it later on, now she's going to be like, something's up. He went from he's always saying yes to everything to now he's just he's saying no to things from time to time. He's saying he's not available. This and that, something sneaky's going on. And you don't want that. But you do want to set boundaries early on because, again, she'll be like, but I want to see him, but he's not letting me. I got to sit here and wait for it. I got to stop thinking. And that's, again, emotional roller coaster, positive emotional roller coaster. And then, of course, the last one, be unpredictable and mysterious. Don't give all your business. Women, when they're dating you, want to unpeel you and get to know you like an onion. And you try to just shove the whole onion down her throat, it's not going to be a very happy experience for her because there's no mystery. There's no having to figure you out. Women want to figure you out. Women love watching mystery shows because they want to try to figure out before the end what possibly happened. So go with that. And guys, we think that we're being dishonest if we're not giving them the full story of our lives. Now, I saw a question this week. Somebody was saying, so I'm an alcoholic, but I stopped drinking 4 years ago, and I went on a first date with the girl, and I'm wondering when I should tell her that I'm actually an alcoholic. And there were dudes in the chat that were like, oh, you should tell her right away, blah, 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 blah. And it's you don't even know if this girl's going to even get to the girlfriend phase, And so you need to err on the side of that can be something that comes up in a get to know you conversation in the course of the dating process. But to think you got to reveal that kind of stuff on date 1 or 2, again, you can do it, but that's one of those things where it's not necessary. And also you're going to have more grace shown towards you as she gets to know you more. So you saying something like that on date 1 versus date 8, you're going to have more grace on date 8 because she's gotten to know you, but you're not yet the boyfriend yet. But before you get to that serious phase, you're saying, hey, so we've been getting along great for these last couple of months. I wanted to address something with you before we go further. Like, I don't do this anymore, but I was alcoholic for a while, yada, yada, yada. And then she'll have she'll have more sympathy for you because she's got to know you and see what a great guy you are in spite of what you did in your past. All right. But yeah, the more unpredictable and mysterious you can be in the course of the dating phase, she's going to be wondering like, oh my God, what's he about? Or, oh, he said he did this thing, but didn't give me full details. Oh my God. And it's going to keep her in the game more because you're going to that roller coaster of, I don't know all about him, but I want to know more, but I'm not sure. Like, give her that ride. That's the best thing you can do, right? Anyway, so those are all examples of how you give women positive emotional roller coasters. So before I continue on number 4, somebody left a comment in the chat, and he's asking, what daily activities should introverts do to meet new people? Well, I talk about that extensively in my new webinar. So if you go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and click on it's the only button on the front page, it'll take you to the Irresistible Introvert webinar, where you'll learn the 3 key secrets of how to attract women as your introverted self. And it gives you the places that you need to go that will really give you a better edge on how to attract women in a comfortable environment for you as the introvert. So check out the webinar. I answer all that extensively in that webinar. All right. So anyway, continuing on, we will now go into, let's see what we have here. Okay. So here's the 4th way to get a woman hooked in her first few dates is place your focus on showing her a good time and not on what you're going to get from her. This goes back to the whole, like, most guys are on dates thinking, okay, I'm going to show her a great time, and then she's going to like give me feelings back, and she's going to want to hook up with me. And when you go into a date with that kind of agenda, women can feel it. Women can feel that you're on this date, you're looking at her boobs, and you're staring at her curves and her body, and you're bringing up all these innuendos, and your whole agenda is just hook up, kiss, 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 love me, feel. And that is what most women experience on dates, which is why most of those first dates don't get second dates. But if you're just like, okay, you know what? Let's forget about my agenda for a second. My goal in this date is to show her the best time possible that I can show her. Even if it's like a dinner date, I want to give her the best conversation I can. I want to be able to ask her about herself. I want to listen to her. I want to make sure that she's having the best time she can. And then that's it. And then I'll go home. If that is your focus, you will find you will be getting more 2nd, 3rd, 4th dates and more hookups because women are like, oh my God, like this guy took me out and just like really made it about me. He was listening. He was attentive. He was kind. He made me laugh. He was caring. Like, I don't get that on a lot of dates. This is the guy I can see myself getting hooked on too, The 5th way to get her hooked on the first few dates is to make her do things to prove herself to you. A lot of guys, you guys are going on dates thinking, okay, what do I got to do to prove to this woman that I am worthy of a relationship? One, you shouldn't be relationship focused going into dates. You should be research focused. You go into dates saying, I'm going on this date to research this person to see if we connect and click. And if we do, great. That'll be the end of today's research. I'll do it again on the next date, right? But in the midst of that, you can start throwing out things that are like challenges to her. So for example, she might say like, oh yeah, I'm a really good cook. And you'd be like, really? Like, what do you cook? Oh, I cook like a really good like steak, like a good steak meal with like rice and gravy and all this other stuff. Sure. Okay, fine. No, really, I'm really great. I promise you. Okay, you know what? Like, obviously not on this date, but like at some point in the future, like we can see. We'll see what your cooking skills are like at some point if this goes beyond this date, because I really need to see it to make sure that's the thing, right? Like, or something simple as like, a lot of women have Instagram accounts where they have like booty pictures and stuff like that. So you might be dating a girl and be like, yeah, I don't really like dating girls with like booty pictures and blah, blah, blah. And she might be like, oh, I don't have any of those kind of pictures on my account. Really? Yeah, sure. Like all women say that, but like, you probably got a couple of booty pictures or some bikini pictures. No, I don't. Here, look, you see, look. What is she doing? She's proving to you that she's not that kind of girl. So when you leave challenges, women like challenges. Women want to be able to earn your affection. Because if you notice, most guys that are just freely giving their affection and kind and caringness to women, most of those women aren't dating those guys. So women understand on some level that part of the dating process is you earning her affection, but also her earning your affection. I think most guys miss out on the part where women understand that they need to do stuff to earn our affection too. So when you allow her to do that and you set up challenges for her to be able to have to try to do, then you will find that, yeah, she's going to get hooked because now part of being hooked on you is you're making dating fun for her. You're saying, hey, there's some things out there. I dare you to try to do these things. I need you to prove to me that you can do X, Y, and Z. Like, women, I said women before, you know what? Like, I'm usually the planner because most women don't really know how to plan dates. And then women are like, oh, I can totally plan a great date. And now, coming to third or fourth date, they're planning the date. All because I said, most women I don't find can't really plan a good date. So when you do those kind of challenges, it gets them excited about being able to be lively in the dating process. When you don't, then it's just flatline. Like, well, all right, well, he already likes me for everything that I'm about, so I guess I got to do nothing, and that doesn't keep their interest long term. See, the sixth thing you can do to get her hooked on the first few dates, very important, show indifference. All right. And I've talked about this extensively on the show before. You need to be indifferent to outcomes. If you call up a woman for a date and she says, oh, I can't make the date, your response should not be, oh, why can't you make it? Are you going with somebody else? What's going on? Oh, I really want to see you. Why are you pulling away? Your response should be, okay, well, I'll catch you up later. If she says, if you text her and she doesn't text back for 3 hours, and she texts back after 3 hours and says, hey, sorry, I was in a work meeting, your response shouldn't be, well, didn't you have your phone next to you? Why couldn't you contact me? Blah, 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 blah. Your response should be, okay, no problem. I was doing other things anyway. Like, when you show indifference, what happens is that you're not applying pressure to her to be your entire world, which frees her up to have the freedom to choose you. And we want women to feel like they can choose you. Most men do not leave space for women to choose them because they think, I got to be all up in her face to make her want to be around me. And that is always the wrong strategy. Versus if you're like, hey, it's take it or leave it, come and go, it is what it is, then you're going to have better results. Examples of being indifferent. One, give her the impression that she has competition for your affection. Like, most guys have this fear of like saying, if she sees me out with another girl during the dating process, or if she asks me if I'm seeing other women and I say yes, she's going to be butthurt and oh my God. But the reality is most women like men that they know other women want. So this does not mean, by the way, that as an introvert, you have to like date a plethora of women. It just means you need to give off the energy that if this doesn't work out, you know that there are other options out there you could get. So I found as I got better at dating, I could actually be dating one girl at a time and they still come to me. So are you dating other people? Are you seeing other people besides just me? Like, because I'm not seeing anybody else. And I at no time had any conversation about whether or not I was seeing other people or not. But because I wasn't being desperate, because I was being indifferent, because I was showing her that I cared for her, but not in a way that was overly obsessive, then she doesn't know what my dating life is like. And she could assume very well that there are other women in the picture. And you want her to think that because she wants to think that of the women that are in the picture, she's the top tier. And that's how you get them hooked very easily. Another way to show indifference is to convey to her that you'd be fine without her. Now, you don't have to do this in a mean way, but for example, if she says, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it tonight for something, blah, 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 and your response is like, yeah, no biggie, I got other things I can get into. Now she's gonna be thinking, wait, he's not gonna be mad or upset or crying or yelling at me that I broke a date or that I couldn't show up or that something came up last minute, like, oh my God. And again, that makes her feel like she's not gonna be running up against a guy that's gonna be making her feel like it's not gonna try to push any kind of emotional, like, trauma on her because she couldn't make a date or because she couldn't call back right away. And because again, when you're indifferent, you realize that just like you have a life going on, she has a life going on. If she can't make something or something comes up, well, that happens in your life too. So to make it a big deal is not going to help you. But by being indifferent to it, you'll find most women are like, oh, okay, so he's not obsessive. He's not texting me all the time, not calling me all the time. He's not being mad at me when I do X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, he's a pretty chill guy. Crap, I wish other dudes would be as chill. I got to get hooked on him. Just a few more things here, guys. Let's see. I got a question in the chat, though. The guy says, what question should introverts ask themselves to find what they want in dating? What's the end goal, etc.? Interesting question. So here's my thing, right? Is that in general, as an introvert, you're very much, introverts in general like their alone time. They like peace. They don't really like a whole lot of stimuli. So ideally, as an introvert, you're trying to find a woman that's cool, calm, collected, kind of goes with the flow of things. Yes, she's her own person and has her own ideals, but she's not hard to get along with. She's basking in her feminine energies. And at least I found for me, if a woman's like that, I can generally work with her. If women have excessive trauma or are constantly ready to blame you in a fight or are always trying to like bait you on like, oh, you want to do a thing, but now she wants to do this other thing. It's always a tug and pull and stuff for that kind of stuff. Then that's where it gets difficult. So I find that, unfortunately, most men, not just introverts, most men in general are usually so desperate to get with somebody because we don't always have as many options as we'd like, that we're just willing to just take anybody. And in the process of that, we don't look out for red flags, or we look over red flags rather. And we just like, well, I'll just try to make this situation work to the best of the ability, even though it's not really the best choice. And so introverts need to have a better job of understanding that there is an abundance of women out there that will actually work for them if they were only willing to put themselves out there more. Because what you'll find is the more you put yourself out there and the more women you start to actually date, you'll start to realize, oh, there are actually an abundance of women that I can get along with. At which point, it really is more about the woman having to prove herself to you versus vice versa. Because women are in charge of like if the hookup happens. We are ultimately in charge of if a relationship happens. And too many men are on the mindset of like, I need her to choose me for a relationship, when really it's like, I need to make sure she has the right temperament for a relationship with me. So you should be going in, like I said, treating dating like a research project to research what this woman's about, what her temperament's about, what her life's about, to really figure out if she's going to be the right one for you. That's how I approach this kind of stuff anyway. So going on to the seventh way to get a woman hooked on you in those first few dates, very important. Do not talk about your feelings for her, and do not heavily invest your emotions in the dating process. Of the two of you, a woman can fully invest her emotions in the process because she needs to be able to have an emotional connection to you in order to feel that you're the right person for her. As a guy, you need to start being more analytical about the dating process, because you're thinking, I need to be as emotional as her about this process. When men are overly emotional, harmful things happen to women. Yes, you can care for the woman that you're with, but to get in this state where you're overly invested and you're overly emotional and you're sulking and crying when she can't show up for a date and you're thinking like, why should you do it? Like, that's the stuff that freaks women out. Because when you get emotional, again, harm comes to women. Most women, when they get overly emotional, for the most part, aren't going to like do anything too harmful. Yes, there are cases of like bricks being thrown at cars and keyings at cars and stuff like that. But for the most part, like, we can overpower women because we're muscular and we're taller build and stuff like that. But it's more of a danger to women for us to do that because, again, we're taller, we have more muscles, we can do a lot more harm to them just on a body level, you know? And also to the point is that women recognize that in the course of a relationship, there are going to be things that happen where decisions need to be made. And she's going to be emotional. You cannot be emotional. You need to be able to have a straight head, be able to make the decision that needs to be made in the moment about whatever's going on. So if she's seeing early on that you're getting overly emotional about the dating process and about her, then that gives her no safety to think about how you're going to handle when real situations arise that they recognize cannot have an emotional response to it. All right. Versus, again, if you're indifferent, but more importantly, if you're not talking about your feelings and expressing your feelings, one, you look more stoic. But also, here's the other thing too, right? Is that part of women wanting to eventually come to you and ask questions like, what are we? Are we in a relationship? Is because they don't know where you stand. And when women don't know where your feelings are at with them in any kind of capacity, then they start thinking, I got to know. I don't know what's going on. Like, we've been dating for 2 or 3 months. He's taking me all these places. We're having great hookups. I think I'm the only girl that he's dating, but he hasn't asked me to be in a relationship. What's going on? And sorry to say, that's the state of mind that makes women come to you asking for relationships. That's the thing that makes them hooked, because they're like, as long as you're not telling them your feelings, in their head, there's a risk that any given moment, they could still lose you. Like, yeah, you hooked up for 2 months and took her out, but like, that doesn't mean you like her as a relationship. So there's a chance that she could still lose you. And that is how you get a woman hooked, because if she doesn't know, she has to come to you to ask for the relationship. If she's coming to you, she can't be getting rid of you, because if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you, as I always like to say. So yeah, so your better aim is to show how you care about her through your actions. You're taking her out, you're showing a good time, you're giving her good hookups. That's all you got to do on repeat for like the first 3 months. Until she comes to you and says, oh, I wish you would text me more. Oh, I wish you were in a relationship. Then you'll know. Then at that point, you can say, oh, yeah, I think we should be in a relationship too, because you know, I really care for you. And even then, your ratio should always be 3 to 1. For every 3 times she verbalizes some kind of emotion towards you, you give her 1. Because when it's the reverse, when you're overly emoting these feelings to her, she starts to feel creeped out and starts to see you as needy and then doesn't want to be around you anymore. Just telling you how it works, guys. Don't shoot the messenger. So the 8th way to get her hooked is do not talk about any version of future speak. This is like when you go on that first date. At the end of the first date, don't say like, well, I had a good time. We should do this again. I'll call you later. You shouldn't be like, hey, I'm going to text you later. Blah, blah. Like, never give a woman any idea or hint that you're going to contact her or ask her out in the future. Even if you've been on date 4, right? You've been on 4 dates. Don't be like, hey, so for next week's date, no. Every date should end with like, had a great time. And yeah, and thanks for the good night. Boom, get out. Because that keeps her guessing. That keeps her to think of like, yeah, he's not saying he's going to call me later. He's not saying he's going to take me out later. Like, does he like me? What's going on? And it's that mystery. It's that unknowing part that's going to leave her talking about you with the girlfriends and thinking about you nonstop and getting her hooked on you, which is what we want. When you start talking future speak, there's so many guys like in my comments are like, oh, we went on this first date and had a good time. We were already setting up a second and third date. And now she suddenly doesn't want to see me. It's because when you give future speak to women, what your subconscious is saying to them is, I've already chosen you as my person. The problem is if she has not gotten there yet, then it seems like you're now forcing her to be in interactions with you that were not her choice. And we want her to choose you. So she can only choose you if she doesn't know whether or not you're going to be a choice in the future. And when you're not talking future speak, she's like, oh my God, is he going to call me or hit me up? Gosh, I hope he does. When he does, I'm sure going to say yes to that date. Or he's not saying he's going to call me. Maybe I should text him first. Like, that's how you get a woman hooked, you know? The 9th way to get a girl hooked on you in the first few dates, cologne. Like, wear nice smelling stuff. Women get hooked on smells. Like a really good smelling cologne or even like a good body wash. You'll have a woman like on a date. I've literally had women like on dates where they just come up to me and just sniff me. Second or third date, it's like, oh, you smell so good. What's that? Like, because their scent, the scent that you're wearing is going to now connect to their memory. And anytime there's a semblance of that scent out there, they're going to be thinking, oh, that smells just like Harry. Oh, I wonder what he's doing right now. Oh my God, I wish I was around him right now. So get some good scents in your repertoire, right? So like Kevin said, we just always talk about like wearing colognes and in part because like that stuff really does work. Like the better you smell, most of these dudes are smelling musty and they have bad hygiene, and women go on dates with these kind of guys and are like, why did I walk out the house? You want her to be like, you want her to go home after having hugged you, having your scent on her so she can smell that all night and be reminded of you and get hooked without you even being there. Real talk. And then the 10th way to get a girl hooked on you in the first few dates is please, please, please be a good kisser and or be good at hookups. Like if you get a hookup on a first, second, or third date, make sure you're really good at it. Make sure you're a good kisser, because here's the thing. If you're a good kisser, most women are going to judge you on that first kiss. If you were good at kissing at all, there are a lot of dudes out here that are slobbering, licking lips, trying to put tongues down throats and trying to bite and all this stuff while they're kissing. And all those things, most women are like, oh, good Lord. Like I wanted to kiss and this guy did a weird thing and now it's whatever. So, and to be fair, kissing is going to change from woman to woman. Some women like getting bit on the lip. Some women like Frenching. Some women don't. But either way, those early kisses should be like relatively light in tone, but enough to like you have good supple lips going on and a good pressure. Like, figure out what that is, because you'll find if you kiss enough women, you'll find that across the board, there's a general idea of what a good kiss is going to be like. All right. If you get that down good, she's probably going to let you into the bedroom. And in the bedroom, you need to know how to lay that down pat. Spoiler alert, guys, it can't be all about your nut. It's got to be about hers also. Foreplaying, knowing her erogenous zones, learning them, and figuring out how to last a decent amount of time. Because again, most guys in her experience aren't about that. One, they're not about caring at all if she gets pleasure out of it, because most guys are in it for their own pleasure. And also really knowing how to turn a woman on and how to get her aroused and spark those things in her that give her that big O. Like that will definitely keep a woman coming back to you. No pun intended until I said it, but you get the idea. So recapping the 10 ways to get her hooked in the first few dates. Number 1, give her the opposite reaction of what she's expecting. Number 2, plan those dates. Number 3, give her a positive emotional roller coaster. Number 4, place focus on showing her a good time and not on what you're going to get from her. Number 5, make her do things to prove herself to you. Number 6, show indifference. Number 7, do not talk about your feelings for her and do not heavily invest your emotions early on. Do not talk about any version of seeing a future with her. Get some good cologne and have a good kissing and hookup repertoire. If you do those things, you're going to find that most women are going to see you as different from most of the men that they're dating. And it's going to be really easy for them to want to adjust themselves to be hooked on you. All right. Now, important, this stuff also should last throughout the relationship. Like Granted, there'll be some things that change here and there, like you're going to obviously text her more, you're going to see her more when she becomes the girlfriend, but you need to keep a good portion of these things in your repertoire, because at the point that you become predictable and easy to guess on, and you're less indifferent, and you start being overly emotional, women will lose interest. They'll lose interest in a longer amount of time, because at that point they're in a relationship with you, but you can still lose them. So be mindful of that, guys. All right. Women in the chat said, oh my God, it's sad but true. Most guys are not good kissers. It's a total turnoff when guys come on too heavy. Not that women are perfect either by any means. Oh yeah, I've had women before that I'm not a fan of, like the lip biting. I've had women kiss me where they're trying to bite my lip, and I'm like, can we just let's get the first kiss down. Let's just get the lips down. We can figure out later, as we're getting more passionate in the bedroom, if you want to add tongue to that, if you want to add biting, if you want to add spitting on each other, like wherever it is, right? But like those first kiss, especially like a first kiss in public, it should not be like you're trying to jump down her throat. This should be like a nice, I tend to say this, for those first kisses, and I talk about this extensively in my program, the Introvert Dating Success Academy, but those first kisses shouldn't be that long and should be relatively light. All right, guys? So don't go all gung-ho because you're overly excited to kiss her or that she's allowing you to do that, But anyway, guys, so yeah, that's all I really got for today. I have to go out to do some other stuff. So thank you all for tuning in. I do this show every Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So be sure to tune back next week. Also, guys, I read my comments throughout the week to be able to answer them on the show. If you have comments you want to leave on any of my videos, then you can do that, and I will get them for the show. If you want to write me directly, you can write to me at harrywilmington@gmail.com. That's harrywilmington@gmail.com. Go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, to check out my new free masterclass where you will learn the 3 secrets to being able to get women and attract them as your introverted self. And also check out my ebooks, audiobooks, and programs, all designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll check with you next week. I'm out. Peace.
Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it knock when I pull up on your boulevard. Ain't got no rims spinning, ain't got no chain blinging, but I got money, you can tell by all the hungry women.